This is Class 3 of FFA market beef. The weight range is from 1,168 pounds to 1,295 pounds. The first exhibitor is Emma Paolini of Gilroy FFA. Our second exhibitor is Sydney Stutzman from Morgan Hill FFA. The third exhibitor is Jody Fields of Sobrato FFA, and the fourth exhibitor is Bella Bernston of Campbell FFA.
This is Class 3 FFA Market Beef 2020 Santa Clara County Fair. Really a nice class. 4 really good, solid steers, I think, to start this class. Calf that wins the class is the most muscular. I think when we compare him to his 3 contemporaries, he's a calf that's got a giant top in him. When we study him up over his hip, he's got a tremendous amount of turn up over his hip and through his quarter. A calf you really admire when you get your camera behind him and watch him move away, as he's extremely wide based and leaves with an awful lot of width. Calf, I think, as well, when we study his external indicators of condition, I think he's more than adequate in his brisket, his flank, his cod, and over his rib. Calf, I guess if we're going to get critical of this one today, we'd just like to maybe change him structurally, as he gets just a nickel straight off of both ends. We'd like to just free him up and see him a bit freer on the move, but I think he still wins the class just based on his carcass merit, where he's going to cut the largest eye. Looks like he's one of the steers that's also going to grade in that choice category. I do like the steer in second, the black and white steer. I think that calf's got a tremendous amount of quality about him. I think the young lady's done a tremendous job feeding and fitting that calf. That calf's got a lot of white on him. She's really kept up on his whites and kept him good and clean, and I do appreciate that. We need to remember this is still a steer show, and she's done a really good job at home keeping that steer's whites white and keeping him presented to the fullest. But I think when we just simply look at this steer, we admire all the quality he's got. He balances very well from the side. I think he's an extremely trim-made steer as we study him up through his front end. He's extremely long-necked and smooth-shouldered. Calf that we really admire for his length of body and his length of hip. I think he gives up some in terms of muscle when we compare him to the steer that wins the class, but he's a calf that definitely has a bit nicer look on the profile. I guess if I could change him as well, I'd like to see him get off his rear two a bit easier and freer. He just maybe a nickel restricted there in his hock as he gets around the ring. Calf that's been fed well, he's finished well. Again, I think one that should fall into that choice category. I like the next 2 steers in line as well. The Hereford Mark steer, there's one, if I could just inject a little more muscle in him, he maybe'd win the class today. I like this calf for his overall easy feeding look. He's big bodied and bold in his rib cage. He's a calf that's sound on all 4. I think when we study him on the profile, he's really neat in terms of his design as he's level topped and level out his hip. He's one, though, when we get directly behind him, he gets a little flatter in his rib cage, a little flatter in his hip and quarter when we compare him to the 2 steers that win the class. I will say, though, this calf's been fed extremely well. I'm comfortable with that one, hanging a high-quality carcass as well. This black steer that comes in 4th, he gets a little stale for me today. I think when we start studying his condition, he's one that gets a little patchy over his ribs and over his pones. He's a calf, though, you've got to admire because he's got some width and dimension. He's got plenty of performance. I think he's done a good job getting there. A steer we'd just like to maybe inject a notch more quality in. When we view him from the side, he gets a little plainer through his front end, maybe just a little flatter as well when we compare him to those top 2 steers. But I'm comfortable this steer's going to hang a nice high quality carcass as well. I don't know that he'll be as high yielding as the 3 steers directly above him. Really a great class, one of the more competitive classes of the day.